are glad you can join us today for Ag PhD. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. There's so much going on. I'm really excited about things starting to warm up just a little bit. We look at manure applications that are going on today. There's a few tips that we'll give you to get the most out of your manure.
We also want to talk about the crop, sunflowers. It's something we don't spend enough time on, I think, here on Ag PhD, so we're going to cover it from start to finish today.
Well, if you have our Weed of the Week, you'll need to spend more time trying to get this one under control. We'll show you what it is here coming up in a little bit. But first, here's our Farm Basics.
Farm Basics is brought to you by the Liberty Link trait and Liberty herbicide from Bayer. The most reliable weed management solution, Liberty Link and Liberty herbicide are the link to efficient row crop production and sustainable weed management.
During our Farm Basics time today, we want to talk about one of the apps that we've worked on development over the last few years. It is the Planting Population app from Ag PhD.
All right, as you get seed in the ground and you want to get out and see what kind of stand you have, you want to take a look and see exactly how many plants are popping up per acre so you know if you need to replant or how you're doing with your whole program. So getting out and making those counts is critical. Let's just take a crop like corn, for example, and say that we're in 30-inch rows. Where do we begin, Brian?
Well, where you begin really has nothing to do with the Planting Population app because the farmer has to make the determination what plant stand does he actually want, how many seeds per acre is he going to put in the ground. But then to figure out, well, what did we actually get out there, that's where the Planting Population app is so handy because you can go out and make stand counts and it will tell you based on your row spacing how many feet you need to count to get 1/1000th of an acre, and then you can just plug in what your number is and have this all calculated. So there are different things here for corn, for soybeans, just running a general stand count, like I said. A lot of different things you can do with that Ag PhD Planting Population app.
I think the big thing is just having some of those numbers handy, because how many times have you gotten out to a field and you forget the numbers, or doing any job that you're in, man, I forgot what the formula is for that. And with row spacings, what will happen a lot of times, like on a 30-inch row, you don't want to count a whole acre to see what your stand is. So we'll look at what 1/1000th of an acre is. So say that it's 17.5 feet. Now that's a reasonable number. I can count the plants in 17.5 feet. And you do a few counts like that to see what kind of population you're getting, and then you average everything all together to see where you're at for a stand.
We developed this app in conjunction with Case IH, so we just want to thank them for their participation in this. And we really encourage you, do download all the Ag PhD apps. They're free apps for you to use. They're things we use on our own farm. That's why we developed them, because we just felt, hey, there's a need for us on our farm. You know what? There probably is a need for others on their farms as well. So again, it's the Ag PhD Planting Population app.
One thing you'll need to watch for when you're out in your fields is our Weed of the Week. Can you identify this week's weed?
We love the quality, we love the construction. We're looking forward to working with Morton in the future.
They have this down to a science. They know exactly what you want. They know how to make it happen. It's an easy process.
I would definitely recommend Morton. From the first time I met the salesman to the last nail that the crew put in, it has been a positive and professional experience.
I'm so happy I found Morton because they just make the job so easy.
Find the building of your dreams at mortonbuildings.com.
One of the biggest yield limiting factors on farms is even crop emergence, and only one closing wheel will get your growing season started right. Furrow Cruiser spiked closing wheels from Copperhead Ag are proven to yield better than standard rubber tire and cast iron closing wheels in all conditions. With yield gains that give you a return on investment the first season, there's no reason to run a standard closing system again. Visit copperheadag.com today to get your 2017 growing season started right.
Side dressing nitrogen? Applying nitrogen over the row boosts nitrogen uptake and efficiency. 360 Y-Drop places nitrogen at the base of the plant, not like Coulter systems that put it down the center of the row. With Y-Drop, a small amount of moisture moves nitrogen into the root zone for rapid uptake. Getting more bushels out of your nitrogen investment is important. 360 Y-Drop lets you apply nitrogen later in the season so you know exactly how much N is needed to finish the crop strong. Learn more at 360yieldcenter.com.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
The Guardian Air Twin Spray Nozzle from Hypro produces a twin spray pattern with air inducted droplets for superior coverage, even in dense canopies. Be effective and efficient with your spray application this season with the Guardian Air Twin. Hypro, helping you spray better.
Leading the charge in strip tillage for more than a decade, the Soil Warrior brings the future to your farm today.
What will you do on your farm this year to increase your sunflower production? Well, we'll give you a few sunflower tips today.
All right, there are some big differences from what the highest yielding sunflower farmers are doing versus what the average guy is doing. And a lot of times sunflowers are kind of an afterthought. It's, well, I couldn't get this crop in, and so I'm going to do sunflowers. Other times it's a planned thing where you've got a contract well in advance, you know exactly what you're doing. If you're going for the highest yield in sunflowers, it has to start with fertility. And I realize there's a lot of misinformation out there saying, well, sunflowers are this great scavenger crop. Hey, sunflowers are scavenging because they don't have enough fertility applied to them many times. And you can see it right in the stalks when you walk out in fields. If you've got a big, healthy, thick stalk, you know that it's been fertilized well. And when it's a spindly stalk, you know, much like in cornfields, when that stalk is small, there's not enough fertilizer there.
All right, as soon as Darren mentions fertility, the first thing that pops into my head is a lot of sunflowers in the United States are raised in drier areas of the country. So in drier areas of the country, the standard line I hear from farmers is, well, we can't afford to spend much on the crop. We don't get a lot of rainfall here. That's exactly the reason why you need to properly fertilize. Because did you know that a properly fertilized plant is going to use less water than an under-fertilized plant? Here's the reason why. Okay, anytime a plant starts to run short on a particular nutrient, how do most nutrients get into the crop? Well, they get in with water. So what happens is when the crop starts running short on any nutrient, it starts pulling in more water, even if it doesn't need water at the time. What I'm saying here is you're making your crop a water waster when you don't have the right amount of fertility in. Now, this doesn't mean you have to put on 20,000 pounds of fertilizer or anything. What this means is you need to have the right balance of fertilizer in your soil. I'm just trying to say you've got to get everything kind of in balance on your farm, get your soil pH right, and do those things, and all of a sudden you're going to find you've got a more drought tolerant crop. You've got a crop that's going to do a lot better in overall production. So even if you are in a dry area of the country, we just really encourage you, do a good job with soil fertility, do some soil testing, learn how to read that soil test, make your own fertilizer recommendations, and balance your overall nutrient level, and you're going to have a lot higher production.
The other thing you need to do is start with a good pre-emerge herbicide program. When we think about the post-emerge herbicides, we just can't kill many of the tough broadleaf weeds post-emerge in sunflowers. So we've got to start off with a pre. But when we talk to farmers across the country, we'll say, what are you using for a pre in your sunflowers? We'll normally hear, most commonly, either Sonalan or Spartan Charge. Now, a few guys will say, well, I use everything I can. I use Sonalan and Spartan Charge. Honestly, that's the best answer because we don't have those post-emerge options. We've got to do everything we can, use multiple modes of action, several different effective products pre. So you've got 2 products in the Spartan Charge and you've got 1 product there in the Sonalan, Treflan, or Prowl, and you can get the most broadleaf weed control and get the grass control too.
All right, let's get a little more specific on those pre's. Spartan Charge, the charge part, that's just AIM, and all that is a burn down product. So if you're in conventional till, you don't even need that charge portion, that AIM portion. You can just get the straight Spartan and incorporate it. But if you do need burn down, Spartan Charge is going to be an upgrade from straight Spartan. Darren mentioned the yellows, Treflan, Sonalan, and Prowl. Remember, Sonalan is the best product, okay? Prowl is fairly close behind it, but Prowl is the no-till product, Sonalan is the incorporated conventional till product. You can certainly use Treflan. It's just you have more carryover risk with Treflan, and it's not quite as effective as what Sonalan is.
Then in terms of post-emerge weed control, what do we have? Well, we've got some good grass killers, so if you need some post-emerge grass control, we can do that. But in terms of broadleaves, unless you've got Beyond for Clearfield flowers, or you've got Express for Express sunflowers, wow, you just don't have much for options.
Yeah, I would say you have nothing for options. So that's why you have to have the multiple pre strategy. If you aren't willing to use a yellow and Spartan, I'd forget about raising sunflowers. It's that big a deal because there's no way to kill those broadleaves post-emerge other than in the Clearfield or Express Sun sunflowers. Okay, turning to something else. Let's talk about, for a minute, diseases. There are a lot of people that aren't treating for disease at all in their sunflowers, and in many cases we think that's a mistake. Fungicide prices have crashed. They're dirt cheap now. At least try some fungicide on your sunflowers. We found a lot of guys are getting good plant health benefits. They're spraying early, some of them are spraying late, but at least be experimenting a little bit with this. The guys that have experimented, a lot of them are now doing their whole farms, but again, we just encourage you at least experiment with some of these fungicides.
It's often several hundred pounds more flowers per acre with these fungicide applications. So it's not just white mold. You may say, well, I don't have white mold like those other guys do in that different area. It's not just white mold. There are a lot of other diseases that impact sunflowers. And then the next thing, Brian, is really timely application of insecticides. We all know that we're going to get bugs out in our sunflower fields. We've got to be really timely with these things because when sunflower heads start to turn, it's tough to get coverage where you need to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. But here again, insecticide prices have crashed. They're dirt cheap. You can go with a full rate of a pyrethroid now for a couple bucks. Even chlorpyrifos like Lorsban, that's maybe $4 an acre. So you're not going to invest a lot of money there, but oftentimes the returns are tremendous.
Finally, bird control. It's tough to fight birds in sunflower fields when you're close to a water source and you've got this tremendous food, sunflower seeds, that birds want to eat. The birds can be a problem. You can definitely spray some certain bug or bird repellents out in your field. The birds are one of those things that I don't have a great solution for you. I know there's been a lot of different things tried, but the things that you can control in terms of fertility, weed control, disease control, insect control, those things can all help you make more flowers and more profit.
Well, another thing that will help you make more profit is getting control of our weed of the week. Can you identify this week's weed?
In life, when you put the max in, you get the max out. It's no different for your corn, which is why 40 years of effort have gone into proving that Instinct and N-Serve nitrogen stabilizers do more than just stabilize nitrogen, they maximize nitrogen, so your corn gives you the max in return.
When you think about it, productivity starts at planting. So it's time to rethink how productive your planter can be. We did with the new Case IH 2000 Series Early Riser Planter. We rethought your row unit, so it's tougher, more accurate. We rethought your meter, took the most precise technology, factory installed it. We rethought every inch of the Case IH Early Riser Planter to make it the most productive planter around. And if you think about it, that's exactly what you want.
Dealers, repair shops, and other ag parts resellers, this message is for you. Looking to save money on your parts purchases? Parts Express can help. We have over 3,000 popular items for tractors and combines priced at a level to save you and your customers money. In this tough ag economy, who wouldn't want to save on parts? Parts Express prides itself with old-fashioned service and an easy-to-do business with environment. Go to parts-exp.com to see our parts offering and become a Parts Express dealer today.
Sometimes, getting the yield you want means you need a whole new game plan. Think about it. When the older, conventional fertilizer you've been using goes head-to-head with tough soil conditions, they can get all tied up before they ever have a chance to score. That's when it's time to regroup. Time to send in the A-Team. AgroLiquid isn't like other fertilizers. Their nutrient-balanced products stay in the soil in the right formulations, in just the right amounts. And because of AgroLiquid's unique chelation technology, you wind up using less and seeing more in your yields. So you could wind up having one heck of a championship season. Make a smart start with AgroLiquid. To find the closest nutrient coach near you, visit agroliquid.com.
Manure can be one of the most important things you can do for any of your fields if you do it properly. So today we want to talk a little about manure application and just some general tips we'd have for you there.
All right, one thing that we like to talk about with manure is just the smell of manure. Now I realize that might not be the friendliest topic, but when you smell manure, what you're smelling is the loss of some of the nutrients like ammonia. We want to try and minimize that smell, not just for the pleasure of all our neighbors, everybody that drives by the field, which that is a big deal too, but we want to keep those nutrients in your soil where they can do the most good for your crop.
To hopefully bring that point home, I'll just tell you about when we were growing up on the farm. We had lots of livestock around and it stunk. But our dad would always say, "Boys, that's just the smell of money." Well, as I got older and learned that, you know what, that smell is lost nutrients, I often tell people now, no, that's not the smell of money, that's the smell of lost money. So just keep that in mind anytime you're dealing with manure at all. If you can smell it, that means you've literally got dollars going up in the air. So how are you going to prevent that? Well, one of the things you can do is use some different products, whether it's nitrogen stabilizers. There are a number of different treatments you can have for manure. That can help to some degree. But the biggest thing is we just want to have you get it in the ground as quickly as possible. So if you have to lay it on the soil surface, incorporate it immediately. If you can, inject it deep into the soil so that way it's covered up, it's protected, you're in a lot better shape. And by deep, I'm talking 6, 8, 10 inches deep. That's much better than an inch or two deep. We want you to get it down into the ground and have it all covered, or at least almost all covered, so you can hold as many nutrients as possible.
All right, there's a few different situations you may find yourself in. One, let's say you have more manure than you have ground to put it on. Then you've got to look at what the maximum rate you can put out on that ground is if you're in that situation, and not exceed that. Some of the things that we would look at, of course, would be phosphorus. I know a lot of the nutrient management programs, that's a real focus for them. The other thing would be salt levels. If we've got salt that's in our manure, which we know we'll have, there's generally a limit that the lab will say, you know, above this level, we don't advise putting on any more than this, otherwise we're going to run into trouble out in fields.
All right, Darren brought up two issues. Phosphorus, my first suggestion is bury it. In other words, get it down deeper in the ground. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying, oh, we want to overdo our soils with phosphorus, but what I'm saying is test your top 6 inches of soil. I'll bet your phosphorus levels are already really high. Test your next 6 inches down. I bet you have lower levels there. If you have lower levels there, that's a good place to put more manure, right? Makes sense. Okay, on the salt side, the big thing here is drainage. You want to make sure that you have great drainage out in your field. When you do, salts are leachable. They'll flush out of your soil relatively quickly, but if you find your salt levels are getting over 1% and especially over 2%, you're probably going to have to avoid manure for a little while.
Okay, the other situation that you may be in is where you either have just enough manure to get over all your acres or not quite enough manure to get over all your acres. The question becomes, well, do I put a full rate of manure out there and try and completely replace my commercial fertilizer, or should I just put a partial rate of manure out there and then supplement the rest with commercial fertilizer?
Well, what we've found is if you can get a low rate on lots of acres, that's better than putting a great big rate on a few acres. Now, I realize it's more work to do it that way, but you'll probably get more response. Here's the number one takeaway on this whole thing, our entire discussion today. This is what we want you to do. Test your soil and test your manure. Then take a look at what you're using for nutrients, whatever crop it's going to be that you're going to plant in there, alfalfa or corn or soybeans or whatever. Oh, and by the way, some people say, well, you can't put manure on soybean ground. Really? We've had fantastic results putting manure on soybean ground. Remember, soybeans need a crazy amount of nitrogen. Either they're going to produce it themselves or they're going to take it from the ground. So don't get too worried about that. Soybeans can have big time yields and big time nutrient removal. But the big thing is you just want to make sure that you're testing your ground and testing your manure so you're not overdoing stuff. Be really careful on the nitrogen side. We typically don't have a lot of big issues. Yes, there's some phosphorus problems, but we don't have a lot of big issues as long as you bury your manure with any nutrient other than excess nitrate. So be real careful. If your soil can only hold a couple hundred pounds, don't be getting more than a couple hundred pounds of nitrogen in that ground.
Now you may say, I'm putting on lots of manure, how come I'm not getting the big yields that other guys are? It's probably a balance issue. So again, test your soil, test your plants, see what's off, and then try and fix it.
Yep, what we often find is some people are short on one micronutrient, might be manganese, might be zinc, might be copper, something like that. It might be just some little deal, and that's all you need. It's either that or you're getting too much salt. So those are the big problems we quite commonly see with people who use lots of manure and little commercial fertilizer.
Other problems you might be facing on the farm include weed control. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed coming up next.
The Weed of the Week is sponsored by the Enlist Weed Control System from Dow AgroSciences, a new herbicide and trait system that will build on glyphosate.
Farming isn't just in the land, it's in you. Take control of weeds like never before. Enlist builds on the Roundup Ready system, combining proven control of a new 2,4-D and glyphosate in Enlist Duo herbicide. Protect what matters without changing the way you farm. Talk to your seed or crop protection supplier today.
Our Weed of the Week is Wild 4 o'clock.
It's a perennial weed that we often find in grasslands, fence lines, these kinds of things. And if it's not tremendously invasive, sometimes people say, well, why do we need to kill that? And you know what? You don't have to kill it. No. You can just let it go if you want to. Yep. And that's totally fine. However, if you're spraying for other weeds in the ditch, chances are the same products that control them are going to kill the wild 4 o'clock too.
All right, if you do want to get this under control in your ditches or non-crop areas, 2,4-D does a pretty decent job, so does dicamba. Tordon has good effectiveness, so there are a lot of products out there. I would tell you this though, since it's a perennial, do you really think you're going to get 100% control with one shot of 2,4-D or dicamba? I doubt it, but multiple applications, usually you will stop it.
All right, so early spring is a really good time to control weeds like this. You can get out there, you can get good coverage before there's too much grass growth. That'd be a nice time to take out wild 4 o'clock.
All right, but how about in crop ground? We see this coming up. And hey, we don't know when it's going to show up exactly during the season. What are we going to do to stop this in, let's say, corn, for example?
Well, a strong rate of Roundup in a burn down would be probably the best. That way you get all the way down through that root system. You could use Sharpen in there to help with some top growth control, status over the top.
All right, turning to soybeans, we like the new Extend. Certainly Enlist when that comes out. That will allow you to spray dicamba or 2,4-D. Otherwise, Roundup would be your best option. Liberty's going to burn it to the ground. It's not going to kill the perennial root system, though.
In wheat, we don't see much wild 4 o'clock, but if we did, it'd probably be in a no-till situation, hit it with a Roundup and Sharpen, burn down, and you'd wipe it out.
Yeah, and post-emerge in wheat, Husky's about your only option. Not going to be great, but at least you'll burn it back.
That's all the time we have for Wild 4 o'clock, but Iron Talk is coming up next.
For lower costs, higher production, Mandico Agri leads with versatility unmatched. Twister is the vertical tillage unit for no-till as well as conventional tillage. Avoid costly downtime with Twister's ease of maintenance. Its unique Coulter suspension allows it to follow the contour of the field yet remain forgiving in rocks. Our hydraulically adjustable Coulter angles mean you never leave the cab, making residue management easier, more efficient. Spring or fall, the Mandico Twister is the new leader. Check with your local dealer or visit mandicoagri.com.
A farmer's attention to detail is what makes the difference. You take the time for service management because you know how vital it is to your operation. You service your field like everything else because soil sampling makes all the difference and gets the results you want. Download the app Soil Test Pro and start grid sampling today. Keep your farm growing strong. The more you test, the more you know.
With Farmer's Edge variable rate technology, you get the most from your land. Before any application, we map out production zones using high-resolution satellite imagery. Then we hit the fields to inspect the land and soil sample each zone. All these efforts lead to precise data, accurate prescription maps, and optimized inputs. It's another way we help you grow more precisely.
Are you looking for an easy way to apply dry powdered products to your stored grain? Do you want to use the applicator recommended by industry leaders for products like Diacon D and other dry powder products? Changing Time CT applicators successfully apply a diversity of products quickly, easily, and accurately. The innovative CT applicators are designed to give you the most accurate application of products such as talc, inoculants, fertilizers, and other dry products. For commercial use or on the farm, you need the applicator industry leaders are using. CT applicators for the changing times.
Introducing the SoilMax ZD48, the newest addition to the SoilMax Gold Digger lineup. The first plow designed for smaller class tractors, the ZD48 has been tested on tractors weighing between 10,000 and 16,000 pounds with excellent results. Designed for row crop farms, vineyards, irrigation, and specialty crop farms. The SoilMax ZD48 will install tile up to 48 inches deep, as well as install 3 or 4-inch tile. The ZD48 truly opens up the world of tile installation to more farms than ever before.
Avoid dry run failures with the new Hi-Pro Force Field pump. Providing the ultimate protection, this wet seal pump will save you on costly in-season downtime to keep your sprayer running. Now all you have to worry about is the weather. Hi-Pro, helping you spray better.
Iron Talk is brought to you by Case IH.
The AFS Connect Farm Management System from Case IH connects you, and only you, to the information you need most from your equipment, from anywhere, at any time. AFS Connect, only from Case IH.
This winter, we talked a lot about how we were mixing several products together as we're applying fertilizer and even when we're spraying herbicides. I want to make sure that you don't have any problems at home if you try this on your farm. My question for you is this: have you ever had to clean out a sprayer or a fertilizer tank because 2 or more products weren't compatible? I'll show you how to avoid that job in today's Iron Talk. There are a lot of new products coming out every year, and I like to try the new stuff. However, I don't want to have problems in the fertilizer tank or in the spray tank. The best ways to avoid this fate are to, number 1, ask questions of suppliers and manufacturers. They've tried mixing their product with all kinds of things during the developmental stages of the product. If they know for sure that something won't work, it could save you a lot of trouble. The second way to avoid trouble is to do a simple jar test. Mix the various things you plan to tank mix in a clean jar in the order in which you'll add them to the tank. For example, let's say you want to mix some fertilizer with another fertilizer and some water. I always like to add the water first, as it seems to minimize problems later on. Then add the 2 fertilizer products one at a time. Shake the jar vigorously to see if any problem arises. Then add the second product and follow the same procedure. Watch for a few things. If the jar gets warm, there may have been a chemical reaction taking place in the jar that could adversely affect the products you're putting together. Also, watch for clumping or settling out of solid particles. If you see no adverse reactions, well, you should be in good shape to mix those products in your big tanks. Now, one last note that's especially related to fertilizer products. Each batch of fertilizer may be different, so if you get another load of fertilizer delivered to your farm, it's a good idea to jar test things again. That's all for today's Iron Talk, and now, back to the show.
Closed captioning for Ag PhD is sponsored by Norwood Sales.
On your farm, you need speed and year-round effectiveness in your tillage program. The Quick Till from Norwood Sales allows you to move quickly through your fields, maximizing time and improving yield. Constructed of heavy-duty materials, the Quick Till is ideal for both spring and fall applications, from preparing a healthy seedbed early in the season to breaking up corn residue after harvest. For more information about how a Quick Till can improve fields on your farm, call Norwood Sales today.
Well, that's our time for today, but before we go, we want to encourage you to tune in to the Ag PhD radio show. It's our live daily show that we have on each weekday on SiriusXM Channel 147. We answer your live phone calls each day at 2 p.m. Central.
Don't miss the next Ag PhD TV show. We'll have another Weed of the Week, Farm Basics, Iron Talk, and a whole lot more. I'm Darren Hefty.
And I'm Darren Hefty. Thanks for watching Ag PhD.
A healthy soil helps to keep our air and water clean while providing a medium for productive crops, pastures, and shelter belts. It takes good management practices and care to accomplish this. To learn more about how farmers are improving the health of their soils, visit the Responsible Nutrient Management Foundation at rnmf.org.